$450 people have already put down deposits on Triumph's new Bonneville Bobber before confirmation of price or specs. Having just ridden it in Madrid, I don't think they'll be disappointed. It makes 77 horsepower and 78 pounds-foot and starts from 10,500 on the road in black. It's the high torque version of the 1200cc liquid-cooled Bonnie engine, the one found in the T120 where it makes 80 horsepower, as opposed to the 97 horsepower variant in the Thruxton R. But it felt closer to the Thruxton R to me than the laid-back T120. The engine is slightly different to the T120s. It's got a new twin airbox and makes a better spread of torque and power according to Triumph, with 10% more of both at 4,500 RPM. Peak torque is 1 pound-foot more. But I think at least half the reason it feels like it's in more of a hurry, and a big surprise about the bike really, is its handling. It's not a long wheel based lump that won't go around corners, which is a tempting thing to assume about it. It likes corners. It felt more agile than it ought to be. Claimed weight is 228 kilograms dry, 4 kilograms more than the T120, but it feels lighter, possibly because of a lower centre of gravity. The suspension feels taut. The fact it's never going to carry a pillion has allowed short suspension travel according to Triumph, with 90mm in the fork and 77mm in the shock. Lift your weight off the seat and you can feel the shock reaching full extension with a jolt. Ground clearance is enough to have fun without worrying on the approach to every corner. Mostly I was expecting the pegs to go down, but they didn't. The hero blobs are short so that when they did ground, I sometimes found the heel or sole of my boot did too. The ride included damp roads with a foggy start and temperatures as low as 2 degrees Celsius before the sun came out. The tyres, which are Avon Cobras on 16-inch wire-spoked rear wheel and a 19-inch front, offered good grip throughout the day. They've been developed for the Bobber according to Triumph. And of course, there is a lot of torque. More horsepower than pound-foot, in fact. The engine hits a rev limiter at 7,000 RPM, and a digital Rev Counter is among the information that can be shown on the digital display in that analog speedometer, along with gear position, time, current and average fuel consumption, fuel level and range. You don't need to rev that hard or go much above 6,000 RPM. The engine's best between 3,000 and 5,000, I thought, propelling the bike from corner to corner in meaty bursts of acceleration with a surprisingly loud noise from the pea shooter style exhaust. Sometimes this kind of riding position has me feeling like my knees are being forced apart by the wind, like I've been made into the least aerodynamic shape possible, a sort of human cup. I'm thinking about Harleys now. We did some high motorway speeds on the Bobber and I didn't feel that effect. It's actually pretty comfortable. The riding position is quite natural, not extreme, with your hands and feet just a bit out in front of you. I thought I wasn't going to get on with that seat because it's really firm, but it is comfy because it's bum shaped. By the end of the 150-mile launch ride, I was ready to get out of it, but not before really. I sometimes got a bit of leg cramp though. That's something I sometimes get on bikes with limited leg room, which can only be relieved by standing up. The seat acts as a good bump stop, keeping you in position under acceleration, and it can be adjusted, sliding backward or forward a few centimetres by undoing some bolts. The angle of the clock is also adjustable, so you can still see it. After lunch, I tried the seat in its rearward-most position. It still wasn't extreme, I was just reaching a bit further, but it probably felt more bobberish. But I quickly stopped noticing any difference because it's just a really engaging ride. I think I'd expected it to be primarily a styling exercise with performance secondary, made for a cheerful, leisurely Sunday afternoon jaunt like the T120, but it's much more about riding as fast as you can, like the Thruxton R. It's a good styling exercise as well, of course. Probably the most striking element is that seat and aluminium seat pan with the Triumph logo on the back, but the illusion of being an actual Bobber fades under scrutiny. This is, though, a 2017 production motorcycle made to meet construction and use regulations, have rear suspension and not blow up. Triumph's gone to some trouble to hide things which give the game away. The rear brake master cylinder is behind what looks like an aluminium engine case. Undo what looks like it could be an oil filler cap and instead you see the brake fluid level. The battery is hidden by what Triumph calls an authentic battery box, which is actually a plastic cover, but it looks okay. The ignition is on the right hand side below the fuel injector bodies, which look like carbs, and the steering lock is in the headstock. The swing arm matches the lines of the all-new frame for a hardtail look, although the underseat shock obviously blows the subterfuge. And that brushed stainless steel pea shooter exhaust isn't a pea shooter at all. It's a cover over the real thing which goes in and out of a catalytic converter tucked under the engine. It's a neat job. The tank is smaller than T120's at 9.1 litres. Triumph claims 69 miles per gallon in test conditions, inverted commas, giving 130 mile range. Under the real conditions of the launch ride, the bikes did 75 miles before the fuel gauge read empty and the average fuel consumption meter said 41.6 miles per gallon. But you can't have a bobber with a great big tank. It's got very unbobber-like electronics. Like other models in the new Bonnie range, it's got ABS, switchable traction control and a ride-by-wire throttle with 2 riding modes, road and rain. It's also got an assist clutch to make the lever lighter, and the test bikes had heated grips, which are an option, as is cruise control. At times I wanted more power from the front brake, which is a twin pot sliding caliper on a single disc. I can understand why Triumph has given it a single disc, because bobbers are supposed to be minimalist, not cluttered. But I think they could probably have got away with putting a 4-piston caliper on there without spoiling the look. You just have to squeeze it a bit harder. I'd put up with that to have this bike. If you're one of those to have already ordered one, I think you'll love it when deliveries begin in February next year. If you want one but haven't ordered one yet, you may have to wait a little bit longer, but I think it'll be worth it.